We want to welcome you to, what are we calling this? The virtual reception of our wonderful HCCC students for the fall semester of 2021. We know many of you have been virtual now since March 2020, and we're hoping as we continue to open up that we move our receptions from virtual to physical. But I want to tell everybody that if you check in, we are going to give every participant a $20, no, was it 25? I forget, 25, I think it was. Don't get mad at me. It's either 20 or 25. Thank you. Visa card, that's what they told me. And you can pick that up at my office at 614, right across from the Gabert Library on the 6th floor. They're usually 8 to 4, but you can send me an email if you can only be there at certain times. And it's to help you celebrate, whether you want to buy some more art supplies or you want to buy some food tonight for your family or during your presentation next week on Friday. You know, whatever you want to use the monies for, we're really proud of you. And we wanted to make sure you felt celebrated. So I hope that makes you happy. You know, we're joined tonight by Professor Michael Lee. He is going to lead a conversation with Jeremiah, the next one, Professor Jeremiah Teipen, and then also Laurie Riccadonna, Professor Laurie Riccadonna, about art and emerging artists and teaching and being an artist. And we hope you enjoy that as well. And we wanted to first open up with a video that was created by Sam. Is it Sam Sevilla? I'm not sure I got it. Okay, Sam Sevilla, and it basically kind of is a great way to look at this pandemic and think about our night tonight. So we wanted to share this with you.
Thank you for being a friend. Travel down a road and back again. Your heart is true, you're a pal and a confidant. I'm not ashamed to say, I hope it always will stay this way. My hat is off, won't you stand up and take a bow? And if you threw a party, invited everyone you knew, well, you
It's very well done.
Yes, yes, and I think we all feel that. Thank you, Sam, so much for your great work, and everyone's really. We wanted to. So basically, when the pandemic hit, we always wanted to celebrate at the end of each semester all our students' work, and so I created a page called the Dineen Hull Gallery page on Flickr, and that's how it all began. And we've been doing these shows now for a few semesters. And so what I thought we'd do is we'd walk through it, and we hope that I know Flickr isn't as cool as, maybe some other things, but it does work well with our website at HCCC, and it's very friendly. It's a very friendly app and website to use. So, but you can also follow us on Instagram, and I'm going to be pulling images from this page to the Dineen Hull Gallery Instagram page. So hopefully you'll see some featured work of yours. I wish I could just feature everybody. I just pick, I don't know what the feel of the day is. So without further ado, Summer, can you pull up the Flickr page from, there we go. And so is this the first? I think this is the first image. And maybe we just go through this here.
Sure, would you like me to just scroll through them?
Yeah, I guess maybe that's what we'll do. Yeah.
All right. Get ready
Thank
for some
you.
beautiful work, everyone.
Yeah. This is Myra. This is Andriana. Hope I said that right. Emmeline. I'm sorry if I'm butchering your names. They're all very beautiful, and the work looks great. It really does.
I'm recognizing some of these assignments. Cool.
Mildred. Yes. These are great.
Wow.
I love that. Eduardo.
Oh, very nice.
Mm.
Very nice work, Eduardo.
It's amazing the mix of works this year, Laurie.
Yeah, there's really a nice variety. This class
Yeah.
was fantastic, and they did a lot of this work this semester. So they've been working really hard.
Well, what's interesting is usually it's like, this is Thelma. It usually, there's this Riccadonna, a lot of it's like, you're so realistic, and I'm seeing so much abstract, and it's really exciting that they're branching out, and they're learning that from you. I love that. I know, I love it. I just love it. Thelma,
Oh, they
these are
did
great. This is Olga. Is this Jeremiah's classes now, or is this
These
still?
are-
Yeah,
Yeah.
starting with Salma and then Olga
Oh, okay.
here. Yeah. Olga did a lot of experimentations with using traditional media, but then also using a lot of digital media and mixing those together, as you can see, like with these pieces.
That's amazing.
Yeah, she really, it's very successful, I think.
This would have been a great in-person show.
One day, Sunday. Just like the museum.
Can take our masks off.
Yeah.
And this is Jess. So Jeremiah, I see these a lot in your classes. The oh wow.
This is nice because I'll wait. There's the bird of paradise, which it's a bird and a flower, right? So she's kind of picking up on that name and putting these together.
Oh wow.
That's a
great.
frame by frame hand drawn animation. This is a video too. Yeah.
I'm just gonna play a few seconds of this one because this is 3 minutes.
Yeah, and I guess, I mean, I'm sure Jess could do a better job, but I'll just give a little bit of commentary. She made, this is actually a video game that she created, and it's just so poetic. There's this pear tree, and you can see it's one last branch, one last pear, which drops into the ground. And it ends up growing inside of a human skeleton that is in the ground, and then grows into a new pear tree. And from life and death, life.
That's great.
Wow.
Can we keep this going?
I'm going to share the link in the chat for everyone afterwards so they can look at each other's work.
That's a great point, Summer. Like, this isn't the end of you looking like you can always look. But we're okay. We're doing great on time. This is Jess again. Wow.
Yeah, that maybe go back one. I think that's worth
This one?
even if you go back a couple more. One more back. Even if you have to kind of, go ahead and play this one. Even if you have to kind of flip forward a little bit, I'll just kind of I'll summarize it a little bit. So it's called Moving Day. And there's this plant that's happy, but then on moving day, the people move, but they leave the plant behind. And you can see they're getting all of their other items. But then the new person that moves in, and the plant breaks, the pot breaks on the ground. But then the new person that moves in fixes the pot, replants the land, and puts it up on their shelf. And so it's just also very poetic and sweet that this plant has a new life with a new caretaker.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
I love that.
Very nice.
And maybe this next one also just play and flip through. Sorry, not that one, the one before it, because she was concerned that this was the one more back,
One more.
please.
Sorry.
Yeah, it looks blank, but it's actually a video. It just starts out with a blank screen, and this is more of a abstraction, but it kind of feels like could be microscopic, could be seeds blowing in the wind or something like that. So anyway, it's kind of nice. I just wanted to make sure we saw that, but you can go on. She was concerned that people would just see this dark screen and then not play it. So I want to make sure we played it.
That's great. Lovely work. This is another student, Gwendolyn.
Yeah, this is Gwen, right?
And these are you, Jeremiah, or Laurie?
These are also my students, yeah.
The students take a mixture of classes, so
they take the foundation
cool.
classes and drawing and everything.
That's great.
She has some 3D work, which we don't always see very often, so it's kind of nice to have some 3D pieces in the show. And this is Whitney.
Oh, Oh my gosh, I love it.
Oh, wow. I love seeing work of the students that I've had, and the things that they've done for other classes are so different than the ones they've done for mine.
Right.
It's great to see the whole deal.
This is such a
Wendy.
strong show. All of this is
Wendy?
really good. Yeah. Like
Oh,
there's
wow.
real work here, like lots of it.
Mhm.
Very good.
Oh, wow.
What's really impressive is most of this work happened over Zoom, or online.
It's
Yeah.
true, right?
And so it's really impressive to see these results because we all know how hard it is.
Like, look at that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Zoom. Well, I was making better work during the pandemic. How about you guys? I think it's good to be home sometimes in the studio.
Maybe play a little bit of this video also. This is a
Wendy?
video where this is Wendy's, and you can kind of fast forward and go to a couple different spots, but it's really just using audio as the source for to edit to. So it's not really a music video. It's kind of the opposite. It's just
Sorry, the player's giving me a
the
hard
rhythm
time.
of the audio. Okay, that's okay, but it's, you know, it's also just kind of a nicely edited video of the. This is Checky.
Oh.
And this is all digital drawing, yeah?
Yes, not this one.
This is Ralph.
This is Ralph. Yeah,
Is this a painting or that's digital too?
that was a painting.
Oh, okay.
This is graphite and Sharpie. Graphite.
I love the Goya in the yard. That's
Yeah,
great.
yeah.
It's hard to be funny in art. That's good.
I think then the next video also we should play a little bit of. I think, is it the next one? No, it's coming up. It's anyway. We'll get to it. Yeah, this one. I think it's nice to. It's kind of simple, but color and form and stuff. So anyway, I like that one.
It looks like it's color theory project from the first.
Exactly, a little bit of
Yeah.
this. Yeah.
I have to say that the professors at HCCC really motivate students to make so much work in the first two. You know, I don't think I made this much work my first 2 years. It's really unbelievable. And the students are motivated. I mean, it's such a good group. Oh, this is Sam.
Boy,
Yeah.
Sam.
Is that drawing? Oh, it's digital. Okay.
Yeah. Pieces.
Oh, wow.
That's nice.
Yeah, and I love how the the change of day happens through it also.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That one we
Amazing.
saw. Yeah.
Saw.
Love
This is
it.
the Espinosa.
Nice.
Tastes like strawberries on a summer evening, and it sounds just like a song. I want your belly and that summer feeling. I don't know if I could ever go without watermelon sugar high, watermelon sugar high, watermelon sugar high, watermelon sugar high.
That's too much.
Nice lyric video.
I think I know that from TikTok. Great. This is Leslie again.
What a
Wow.
nice message.
It's the like those motivational posters, except it's a video.
Mhm.
Should I play
I
this?
need that every morning when I go to work.
Yeah.
I love it.
Is that what they do after they get out of my class? Ooh.
Eduardo. I thought we had an Eduardo earlier. Maybe it's another one.
It might be mixed up, and I think it'll-
Sorry, Eduardo, if we had this out of order.
It looks delicious.
It
This
does look
Mohammed.
good.
That was
Little
Muhammad.
window. Oh, this is Mohammed now?
Oh well, that not the last one. This is
Mm. Oh, that's great. Ooh.
Brian Uven. I like this. This is a kind of series. Well, I guess they're not in order. Sorry, Brian, but that moon landing one, and then you'll see this one and another that are all kind of famous events. But
Mhm.
then if you see this one, you see there's somebody like sunbathing on the building. So each one he kind of interjected something else, into it, and he changed the colors and stuff too. But I thought that was a nice little series.
Oh no.
Yeah, I'm not sure how to interpret that. Maybe we'd have to have Brian talk about it.
Nice,
From
Brian.
Among Us, right? The game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, I feel like my kids would have a better grasp on what's the meaning behind this.
This is Brian as Uven?
deft use of the multiple exposure. So cool.
These students have great soundtrack choices, let me tell you.
I was just thinking that too. Great music.
Yeah, this one is longer. This one's 5 minutes. Should I play this one as well?
But you could just
A little
scrub
bit?
through it a little bit, maybe. Yeah, this one's a little long, so I would invite people to come back and look at this one maybe.
Okay.
It's got a very powerful message to it, so I don't want to really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't want to.
One of them all.
That's
After
amazing.
this day,
People can
I
watch
know
that on
that-
their own.
It's
This
a
is
good
Frank.
teaser.
Yeah, that's me.
Oh wow. Oh, this is great. I gotta love it.
Bring me a dream. Make him the cutest that I've ever seen. Give him two lips like roses and clover. Then tell him that his lonesome nights are over. Standing and so alone.
That was so good. I love that.
That was really cool. Okay, let's see how long this one is.
And just speaking of interjecting, Frank, you should look at Bill Morrison's Decasia, the film. You'd love it.
Really gonna take interest in a lot of it, I guess.
Was the record skipping or did you make it skip?
That was all effects.
Yes, effects.
Nice. Nice effects.
I mean, the idea behind it, it was supposed to be happy, but then I messed up, so then I continue on messing it up more.
Nice. I love that.
Sometimes that's how it works, right? That's cool.
That is cool.
Very good.
And that was that's like a reel of many different pieces by Frank that he just sliced together and made a quick sizzle reel.
That's cool though.
This is
I'm so
Darvin.
proud of these works. It's amazing.
This is Darvin.
Yeah, it's 5 o'clock. Do you is this Jeremiah's class? Do you know if we have a lot of people to go left?
There's still some, but I don't know. Are you?
I
I think it's
we
Take
just
it out of
have to
our
wait.
time,
Yeah, I think it's
Big
fun.
fan. Yeah. All right, let's do this.
because I want to see Darvin's stuff.
Yeah. Oh wow.
Oh, it's beautiful.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, is this like your is this like a game character or what is happening here?
It's for a TV show idea I have. It's for a personal project. In fact, I'm trying to make 3D models of some of them already,
Yeah.
but it's taking me some time. So
Sure.
I wasn't able to do it for today.
Yeah. My daughter plays Geshin, I think, and some of the like a little bit of it reminds me. You know what I'm talking about? Geshin? The game.
That's
Genshin?
funny.
I don't know what it's I think it's called something like that.
Yeah.
Whoa.
That's cool.
Oh, and I think that's it. Awesome. I'm gonna stop the share. And I'm going to share the link to this beautiful album in the chat so everyone can see all of the amazing works and all of the films in their entirety. Congratulations, everyone.
Yeah, congratulations.
for
I
real.
think it's like such
Real.
great work. Jeremiah, would you like to say a little, what should we call that, Michael? A little.
Whatever Jeremiah wants to call it.
Okay, yeah, there you go. Okay, Jeremiah.
I'm not sure exactly what you mean, and I
It's
apologize.
just like a little bit like your class, like had a nice time kind of thing.
that We did. I mean, as we all know, working under these circumstances isn't ideal, but the students really pulled through, and they continue to make amazing work, which I think speaks to their drive and their ambition, but also to their sensitivity and how they sort of internalize some of the events that have been going on, both with the pandemic and with social justice, and how that is communicated through their work, maybe not in overt ways, but it comes through. And I think that's a really beautiful thing, that the kind of art's power to be able to help us during the worst of times, and be there during the best of times. So congratulations to all the students. Beautiful job.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
that was so nice. That was really nice. Super nice.
And well said, by the way, Professor Teipen.
Thanks.
No, it's a real treat to be able to see other work from, other disciplines that, might even be like the primary ones for, students. Like I know I've had Brian, I have Brian now, but, Mildred and Jess and Mayra and Eduardo and Salma. I mean, I've, a lot of these people, and it's so cool to see like the other things that like, manifest part of their personality and their desires.
And that is a great part about teaching the portfolio class is, we're going through their portfolios at the beginning of the semester, and you're like, oh, I've never seen any of this work, right? And that's
Yeah,
great to see all this work coming out of all the other professors' classes, and just really seeing the full body of work. And that's what the point of the class too, is to build that sort of body of work and of course present it and create that portfolio. But it's great to see that come together throughout the semester.
And it's always fun to say that students need 20 pieces for their, presentation at the end of the semester. And when you say that at the beginning of the semester, everyone always panics because they think, I don't have 20 pieces. And then by the end of the semester, where they start bringing in their portfolio and pulling everything out, and they have, 200 pieces, and it's a matter of narrowing things down. So, it's so great to see that this has continued, even though we've been, online and virtual, working virtually like this. And I've told my students too, that even though it might not be ideal circumstances, they're probably more prepared for graduation and dealing with the real world than, a lot of other students have been who have been working in the studio prior to COVID. They've figured out how to carve out their time and manage their time in a way that, is really beneficial. And I think it's setting them up for really great things. So.
It's always so impressive to see what happens in the classes, and I just want to applaud you both and for picking great faculty and for being inspirational, especially during these times, and I'm always this is my favorite. I always tell people this is my favorite show. It's always my favorite show because it's so exciting to see all the potential. Like when you look at somebody's work and you're like, I cannot believe they're making that now. Like what'll happen in like 5 years? It's going to be amazing. And it's just about sticking to the studio, remembering what everybody's told you, the good things and the bad things, and keeping at it, So with that, if you guys don't want to, say anything else, we could move to the conversation where we talk more about what we were just talking about, which is teaching and what are the next steps for emerging artists. And I'm so excited to have, first I want to thank Summer, Dawn, for going through all the artwork. That was great, Summer. And now I want to thank Michael for joining us and leading the conversation. And I'm gonna let you have it.
Oh, thank you. Just again, hopefully you don't get tired of hearing this, students, but really cool to see that stuff. It makes me very happy that you're making really killer work. Obviously, I admire Jeremiah and Laurie tremendously, and they're doing their job. Doing well by you guys, and all of the things that I don't cover. You're obviously really making many inroads into animation and different things, filmmaking. I mean, this stuff takes a lot of time. So I really do applaud you guys. So hopefully you guys want to stick around to hear some of the things that Jeremiah and Laurie have to say about, you know, being full of potential still, because they are at a place, as am I think, we're no longer emerging, but, you know, maybe even if we don't want to admit it, we're kind of mid-career. It was really, really neat to be able to both, you know, help both of you put up your shows, but of course, you know, especially to see them. So I feel like we haven't had too many people come in who weren't already here, but I should go ahead and say, welcome to Hudson Presents, Conversations with Contemporary Artists. I'm Michael Lee, you guys know that. But if anyone snuck in, welcome. This is, I suppose you could call it a special episode of the show, because Jeremiah and Laurie have already had talks specifically about the shows at the gallery. And I screwed up, not realizing that Jeremiah's show is going to be up for several more months. So I thought this was going to be a closing reception for both of your shows. But anyway, I've got one little glass of wine here, like, congratulations. And that'll be that.
Yeah. I have a Hudson Community College mug, but you can see it's well used. It's like wearing off. So I'm not sure what that says.
I have that same mug. I don't have it here, but it's.
Wow. Well, you know, I could do the standard 2021 thing and drink my wine out of a mug.
Right.
But I should also just reiterate a thank you to Summer for doing what she does for us. It's really, without her, the machine doesn't really run that well. And of course, to Michelle Vitale for giving me the chance to speak to the, you know, all of the artists that I've done over the last year. I think I've had, what, 6 people other than you guys. And then, of course, including you guys. So that's been really, really nice. So I guess, you know, since we do have plenty of students here, I might try to pivot towards the kinds of things that they might be interested in. And of course, you guys who were, you know, we're not letting you talk too much, but by all means, I'm going to open up my chat. And if you guys want to tap in some questions, you know, to Jeremiah or Laurie, put them in, and I'll try to you know, ask these things to them, because it would be nice to have your input as far as that. I wanted to lead off, gang, with and I've got to get my cheat sheet out on my other screen here. Earlier in the afternoon, just so that everyone knows, I emailed them a couple things that I was thinking about, things that were on my mind.
You did.
And it, well, Jeremiah, I mean, you're such an old pro at this. It doesn't matter. You can work on the fly. It might seem obvious to me, to you, to people who have seen the show, and I hope you guys out in the audience have had the chance to actually come to campus and see it. Maybe not, but obviously, when you do have the chance, it's really worth seeing Jeremiah's show in person. And if you were able to see Laurie's, you know, it is a poor substitute, unfortunately, to see anything online, because she really has a remarkable hand and a great sense of color. But so Laurie's newest work, I think the newest pieces in that show were from what, 2020 or from actually 2021?
From 2020, but right before COVID. So
Right.
literally like finished like the month before.
Yeah. I know I have mentioned to many peers, but also students, that like 2020 really feels like the year that didn't happen. You know, it just like when I look back, it's like I know time elapsed. I know I did things, but it really it's strange. I feel like it somehow got, poof. But it brings me to ask you guys, is the newest work in either of your shows still more or less the direction that you want to be heading, or did this pandemic give you pause and make you sort of tack in a slightly different direction? And maybe we'll lead off with Laurie, and then Jeremiah, give us your thoughts afterwards.
That's a great question. And I'm happy to hear that I'm not the only one feeling like 2020 was just this invisible year. When I think I was teaching a lot and managing everything. It just feels like I don't know what happened to that time. So the paintings, the most recent paintings in the show were paintings I was doing of piles of garbage and things that I would collect that I was using in my household. So lots of plastic objects, toys for my kids, and things that I was collecting. And I had been looking at a lot of images of plastic pollution and different types of pollution. And one of the things that I found as I was in quarantine is that I really couldn't look at those images because they were so unbelievably depressing. And with my paintings, I was painting objects that I myself had used or that had come through my household. So a lot of the things that are in those paintings are things that I associate with my kids, or I associate with a specific memory, even if they're just little, like a bottle cap or something. I know where it came from. And so as we moved into the quarantine and the real, when New York was really hit the hardest with COVID, I was really having a hard time in the studio because I think I was, stressed out. I was teaching a lot and didn't have a lot, and I had my family all in the house, and it was really hard to make work. And then to look at depressing images on top of everything else that was going on, I found really, really difficult. So I think that, fast forward a little bit, I think one of the things that I realized, and I kind of knew this before the pandemic, but my paintings are always, I love beautiful things. And I try to make my paintings really beautiful, even if it is garbage or plastic, junk that I'm painting. I try to paint it so that you have this attraction, even though there's, it's a repulsive object. And I think that as I'm coming out of this time period, I think I'm trying to combine both of those elements in my work. So I'm still using images of plastic pollution and garbage in my work, but I'm also trying to combine it with images that are, really beautiful, so that there's both very obvious, like kind of polar opposites happening in the work, because I just couldn't look at it anymore. I couldn't paint it. It was, so I think for myself, I need to also have, the opposite happening in the paintings.
Yeah,
So
it makes
both
sense.
in how I'm painting it, but.
It reminds me of, I feel like you met him before. He's another Yaley, Patrick Neal, who, he paints flowers, but he often paints plastic flowers. And he does the same thing you do as far as like, making beautiful things, even though they're really kind of chintzy 99-cent store. You wouldn't necessarily know it. But that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, and the show in the Dineen Hull Gallery traveled virtually to SUNY Old Westbury, and the curator there, her initial response to my work was that she was so happy to look at a lot of the older work that was pattern based or floral, had a lot of floral motifs, because she said it was such a nice break from the pandemic, like to be able to get lost in a painting and really look at these other forms. And I was kind of, prior to that, I was trying to get away from all of that, like pretty stuff. Like I was trying to, move into something a little bit darker. And it really made me think, though, because, why do people look at art? I mean, of course, there's always a very strong, social component where we're critiquing contemporary life or critiquing something. But at the same time, the paintings that I love the most always have this element of beauty in them. So, and I think that, beautiful things can remind us of very dark things as well. So there's a play back and forth between those.
Yeah. I think that's a good point to bring up, and we could probably talk about that for the rest of the hour. Jeremiah, you were putting up a show, practically at the same time that you were putting up the one in the gallery. So you have like a ton of work. The stuff in our gallery, the oldest piece is maybe what, 7 or 8 years old? Is that correct?
Maybe more like 15.
Oh, okay. I didn't know.
Twice
Okay.
that, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
But your show wasn't, billed as a retrospective as such.
No, but I mean, it is all past work. I mean, the newest work is from 2019,
Right.
Although it's kind of revisioned, revised, rebuilt, whatever.
Sure.
But also some of the other pieces were changed for that space. So in some ways that kind of makes them, new. I don't know. Or just like expands the time that you're actually working on a piece, because with installation work, especially different sites, different locations, they're going to go up in different ways. And I don't really mind showing the same piece multiple times, but I like to show something new. So I think every work in there, in one way or another, was presented in a slightly new way, right? Even though it's all work that's been exhibited multiple times. But I either did a new configuration of the pieces, or wrapped something on the wall a different way, or even rebuilt some parts of the installations. And the other thing that just talking about sort of the artist's life, when you're working with three-dimensional work, there's a storage problem that you have in New York, right?
Take notes, students.
Right. Well, I don't want to discourage people from making
this is really
it's
an issue, but you can't get around it.
I made a piece in undergrad in my bedroom, and that was kind of my studio, right? It was in Columbus, Ohio, so I had a pretty big space for the amount of money that I was paying. But I was taking it to class, and I couldn't get it out of my door, right? I made it too big to get out of my door. And so after that, I always realized I have to make things modular, right? Things have to be able to like come apart and put back together. And that also allows for storage. So, some of my newest pieces, like the one that's not at Dineen Hull Gallery, but was at the other exhibition that you mentioned, that I started installing almost right after the Dineen Hull show started, was it is, a piece that I can take apart, and it really consolidates to a small space compared to the size of the space. It's like 22 by 12 feet by 10 feet is the installation, and then it consolidates to like 2 feet by 3 feet by 4 feet or something, right? So it's a very, that kind of working in that mode. I think I don't even think about that anymore. It's kind of part of my process to have work that I can expand like that. So a lot of the work in the Dineen Hull Gallery is not necessarily, all of my work from the past 15 years. It's the work that survived, that I could store, so most of it, a lot of it is flat, right? Is work that can be consolidated down to be stored. Besides the one lithium piece that is the big strands of light, which do take up a lot of storage, and I've kept, even though it does take up a lot of storage, the other pieces, kind of consolidate down. But I want to go back and say a couple of things about Laurie's show. For people that haven't seen it yet, go in and see it before it comes down. What Laurie was talking about with the plastic pieces, and what Michael was talking about with just having to see them in person, you have to go and look at those paintings of this plastic garbage kind of, and just see how alluring it is and how beautiful it is. And I think that also communicates to us how we can often be sort of I don't know what's the right word for it, be sort of, we see something shiny and sparkly, and we're like, yeah, even though it might be something sort of destructive. And I think we're all learning that more and more about environmental consequences of our actions and what we purchase, and electronics and how that's disposed and all of this kind of stuff. But those paintings do that. You are amazed by their beauty at the same time that you're, and then consciously realizing that what you're looking at is not something you should be so just like pulled in by, right, at the same time. But you really have to see them in person. There's perfect spots where it's more, there's more gloss to it, there's more reflection. Other spots where it's Laurie's just handled that change, not only of color and detail, but also of matte paint with glossy paint, just in the right spots that really just pulls you into it. So you just won't ever see that on a photograph, right? You're just not going to experience that. So make sure you go experience it. I mean, often, I think that, paintings, painters have it so easy, right? I mean, every time Laurie shows the painting, she doesn't have to remake it, like I was just saying, right? I have to like reconfigure this or make new parts or fix things sometimes, even on my work that, because of storage or moving it around have broken. And but and the other thing is like, oh, you take a photograph of it, it's 2D, the photograph's 2D or painting's 2D, but really the paintings aren't 2D, right? They have a lot of three-dimensional qualities to them, and you have to see those in person. So I just encourage everyone to really go see it. The other thing that I was thinking about when you were talking was just, you were talking about the beginning of the pandemic, and I really thought, okay, lockdown, I'm just going to make people are talking about, here's people that wrote novels during, or great works of fiction, or wrote music or whatever during different plagues in the past or something, right? And and I'm just going to do that too. Well, it didn't happen. I mean, I think just the sort of level of anxiety and depression, it was really hard for me to create work in that space. And the other thing too is I've always thought that having a studio separated from my house is good, because mine is about a mile away. So as I walk there, and I usually walk or ride the bike or something there, a change happens psychologically, right? I'm leaving my space of my sort of everyday, bills and chores and things that I need to do, and I'm entering the space of creating art. And by the time I get there, I can be focused. But during the pandemic, that was not good, because that space, other people are there, and I couldn't go there, right? I mean, I have compromised family members and young child, and so there was no studio time in the studio. So I did make the best use of what I could working from home, but yeah, so now I kind of think maybe Laurie's got the right idea. She's got a studio, right? And
I'm glad you bring that up.
There's still a separation.
I'd almost forgotten
that
that was an issue with so many friends of mine. They said, I'd love to be in the studio. I'm paying for my studio, but I can't go
for
to
it the whole time. Exactly. Yeah.
Sadly, though, I mean, my studio's in my house, and even, I have, it's kind of separated from the rest of the house, but just mentally, I could not disengage from everything else that was going on in the house, because everybody was home all the time. And so, any time that I had to work was quickly eaten up by other responsibilities. So
right.
I don't think there's a win.
Military school.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding, children of the parents. I mean, I guess they're not here, but
they're listening somewhere.
No, I've a recent cat is in my life, but I'm without charges, without children responsibilities, and it makes my life much easier as far as having a studio at home. I can only guess that students of ours also sometimes have children, and together with because we're either from New Jersey, people grow up in Bayonne or Jersey City or Newark or wherever, and they don't leave. There's nothing wrong with that. But, you know, we do live in a very high rent, very, you know, competitive real estate market. And, you know, together with that, the cost of materials, like I'm a painter, right? So it's like, you got to buy paint. And just, you know, everything makes it difficult to make work here. But I think the reason why so many people stay is that it really is a fantastic environment, you know, to gain great experience from, cool visuals, you know, obviously other art, but, you know, just so much more than just going to galleries and museums.
Michael, that's one thing that I really noticed during the pandemic. Like, as a painter, I'm used to spending lots of time by myself, and I need that time by myself. But what I realized during the pandemic is that all the conversations that I would have in the hallway with other faculty members and students, I felt like that was affecting me in my, you know, not having that was also affecting my desire to make work, because deep down I wanted to be making work, but I just felt like, you know, not having that contact with other people, I've never noticed that before, you know, that would impact my studio practice. And I think that, you know, for all the students in this group, I mean, one of the best things that you need to do as an artist is to have a community of friends who are also artists, or who enjoy art or support art, because that's where so many ideas that you might have, like, you can kind of hash them out with your friends in sometimes even very indirect ways. And, you know, hearing that your friend is doing something that motivates you to do something, not that you have to be competitive, but it motivates you to do your own thing as well. And that's one thing with the pandemic. Without having that kind of constant interaction with people, I started feeling, you know, it's easy to get lost, and it's easy for life to kind of like take you along, you know, the river of life or whatever. And you just kind of coast for a while, and it can be really disconcerting, you know, if, you know, after a month or two, you realize what's happening, and it's kind of hard to get yourself back on track. And I credit that to my friends.
I think also that time alone that you have in the studio where you're just concentrating by yourself, it needs to be contrasted by the time where you're full of discussion and talking with a lot of other people. And when there's not that other side to it, right? Then that time alone is just time alone. It's not like a balance, right? Where you sort of escape all of that and then you concentrate by yourself. So somehow I think you need that balance, and just having one side or the other is just not going to work.
Right. Which is why I think I love teaching. And, you know, for all the students, you know, I don't know where your career path will take you or where you're thinking you're headed, but one of the nice aspects of teaching, either, you know, if you're teaching at a elementary or secondary level or at a university level, you know, you have that built-in community of other artists or other people who are engaged in what they're doing. And, you know, it's a nice break. And I always enjoy teaching because it gets me out of my studio. I can deal with things that are still related to art, but it might not necessarily be what I'm working on in the studio, but it just keeps me going and pushes me forward. Other people like to have a job where they don't think about art at all, and then they go and make their own work, you know, in their studio, and that seems to work for them. But I've realized that I need that kind of overlap a little bit.
Yeah, I'm glad you bring that up, because I've definitely met people who have a day job not remotely related to their being an artist, and it's obviously worked for them because, you know, they've done these jobs for, you know, a couple of decades. But I think I'm in your camp, and I do gain. I mean, geez, like seeing Jess's animations tonight were fantastic, because we're doing something so wholly different based on, you know, static imagery in the class that I'm teaching, and to see, you know, like what Brian was doing, really cool. And you know, the things that, you know, Eduardo did, you know, drawing wise, that, like, you know, we're stressing things. It makes me think about other elements that, frankly, I don't focus on in my own art, you know? So like when someone is doing something that, like, you know, I don't really touch in my work, it's like, oh yeah, this is great. Let's talk about that stuff. And it will also remind me of artists that I haven't thought about in a long time. I know that, I mean, my favorite thing to do is to tell my students about other artists, like, oh, here's someone to check out, because it's just a great web of influence. If they're doing, for instance, if they're doing videos, it reminds me of the people who have done videos, and again, I don't do videos. But Jeremiah, you had said something earlier about, that sort of like the walk to and from your studio, providing this sort of like, space where you're, in transitory space that like where you kind of like mentally shift. Obviously, Laurie and I don't have that at our home.
Well,
go ahead.
Go ahead. No, I was going to say, I think that artists do have. I was talking to a friend, a painter, who does sorry, but I'm a little out of it, everyone, because I just got a booster shot and I'm under the weather a little bit from it. But she does what does everyone do? A podcast, right? She does a podcast. I couldn't think of the word. I kept saying vlog. A podcast called Pep Talk for Artists. You should check it out. Just there's a plug for you, Amy. We were talking about different rituals that artists go through to sort of prepare. So even if you're working in your own space, so some of the things might be putting on a podcast, by some, listening to something that kind of your brain is Pavlovian or whatever your brain says, okay, now it's time to make art, or making some tea or whatever it is. You kind of, go through your supplies and you lay them out or something. So that some kind of ritual that brings you from that one, mental space into the other mental space. And I think, for me, it might just be the walk there, but for other artists, it might be something entirely different.
I think also having a schedule, knowing, like, kind of track the hours that you work best in the studio, and don't try to force yourself to work. I mean, I think personally, I always have this pressure, like I put on myself, that I think, oh, I should be painting. And what I've found is that if I try to start painting at like 4 p.m., it's not going to happen. I'm not in the mindset then. So it's like, I think finding your hours that you're most productive and trying to like build your studio schedule around that is really helpful. So, I don't know, I like working in the morning. So if I get up, get right into the studio and get going, I have a great day. And those, like, even if it's only for like 2 or 3 hours, those hours are way more productive than if I'm like late in the afternoon trying to get things started and it just doesn't happen.
Yeah, I think that's true of me. And that definitely speaks in my case anyway, to my age. I used to love the thrill of staying up late in the studio. It felt kind of naughty, to be up like, oh, I really should be getting to sleep, but I can't, and now I definitely am much more efficient at much earlier hours of the day. Although if I didn't force myself to work, I'd never work. I'd be like Netflix constantly.
Yeah.
But Jeremiah, I mentioned that about the sort of like the ritual psychological space that you sort of like, gain when you get to the studio. Because I wanted to ask both you guys a pretty open-ended question. So much has happened in the last couple of years, I mean, serious political upheaval, obviously stateside, but around the whole planet because of COVID, obviously. But also, I mean, like, so many of these social justice issues are related. It's not just what's happening in our country. It's really, it's about like things that, capitalist society has like, basically done to the global south of this entire planet. And, I won't go on blah, 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 because everybody knows what I'm talking about. Was there ever a time, since this all started, that you said, wow, I need to think about my work in a different way, or actually, devoted yourself to truly making it differently because of all this. And it's funny that I just happen to be talking to you guys, because your work already addressed things that could easily be construed as political, socio-political, cultural. Jeremiah is talking about our attention economy in a lot of ways, and obviously Laurie's talking about the back end of the recycle or perish. But the stuff that's been going on for like the last 21 months, has it made you think like, oh God, my work should be like something a little bit different than what it is, or do I need to think about it in different ways? And I'll shut up and let you guys.
Well, I think that for me, I've always thought that art can't ever escape social and political things. It's just going to be in it. It doesn't matter if if you're painting a flower, it's still there's something going on there, right? It's signifying something, and you're a product of your environment. So, but I guess I feel, and I've started to come around, but I always felt in the past that art would be more powerful if the political message or the social message is so nuanced that you don't even realize that the viewer doesn't realize that they're changing the way they're thinking, right? It's not, someone's not telling you, you need to do this, right? You need to do that. So I thought it shouldn't be explicit in the artwork, but I've seen work recently where it's pretty explicit and the work's still really good. So I think I've changed my mind about how political and social messages can be relayed in artwork, visual art, and still be very powerful and still be very effective, I think. So I think there's kind of room there for all of it. I guess, I don't know if it changed my thinking. I mean, I think in some ways I thought I was felt like, oh, I was doing things on the right path, So in 2019, I was in a residency during sabbatical, and my research there was to think about how a computer virus and how that relates to a biological virus, right? And then how that could, right, and like what the difference, and then if there's is there for an invasive species, right? Because it was in Korea, and I know there's one of the invasive species there is the American bullfrog. Somebody brought some in, I think maybe to eat, but people didn't want it, so they released them, and now they're everywhere. And people go out and try to, because they eat, they have no predators, and they're devastating the environment. And then there are ones in the U.S. and stuff. So I was thinking about, okay, there's these invasive species, so I kind of looked up this voracious appetite and the different sort of properties of an invasive species, and I did research on how that would relate to the digital world. Like, what is the invasive species, or how would that look? And my conclusion, and maybe it's still not finished yet, this project, but is that digital media itself is the invasive species. Like, we aren't prepared to biologically we have no biological defense against networked digital media, and we couldn't stop it from just changing the way we think and changing the way we act. And
terrifying.
And that could lead to some terrible. I think it's Virilio, the philosopher, who said, with every sort of industrial technology, there's also a tragedy. So there would be no, Titanic crash without the Titanic, right? We had to build the big technological thing, and then we were, I was thinking, years ago, okay, what's going to be the thing with digital, the internet? Like, what's going to be the big thing? Is it going to all shut down one day, and we're not going to have clean water or energy? And we realized it happened socially, right? It just corroded our society in such a way that some terrible things happen. But hopefully through that, we become more sophisticated Anyway, I'm rambling now, so I'll stop.
Well, I'm proud to say that this series is all about rambling. And I appreciate that. Laurie, again, like, you were working on this stuff, way prior to the pandemic, but did you think like, huh?
I mean, I definitely pulled back a little bit, I think, because it was everything with the pandemic was just so overwhelming. And I agree with Jeremiah that I think that sometimes the most powerful work can be very, very, very nuanced images. And I like that and I enjoy it. And as I was, making these paintings, I was just starting to think that if I want this to be really effective, maybe I should just take a photograph of these piles. Maybe a photograph is more effective to get, if I'm just thinking about this in terms of the message of like environmental pollution or destruction, a photograph is much more direct. You can get it out there. It's just very, it can be very impactful. And so kind of, I feel like I kind of pulled back a little bit. But I think that message is still in my work. It's just, maybe I'm not as like trying to hit people over the head as much as I was initially with those first few paintings. But I don't know. I feel like I've pulled back a little bit.
I mean, I think it's definitely true. And I'm really kind of addressing all the students who are here, even more than Professor Riccadonna. I think you have to be true to who you are. There's nothing to say that, you shut that door in your studio and you could be drawing Mickey Mouse all day. But then on Saturdays, you go to the protest.
Right.
You're not a citizen artist. You're a citizen who happens to be an artist. And the twain don't have to mix. Even though, like, I agree with Jeremiah, there have been works that I've seen recently that I thought, oh, wow, super politically explicit with, not just explicitly political, but like, a clear point of view. I just think, wow, I could never do that. It's not me. I have to make something else. And I guess, obviously the reason I'm asking you these questions is that it's stuff that's been on my mind. If I can't be an artist like that, oh, shoot, should I be making art? It just, not to freak anybody out, guys in the audience, but I have a very end times kind of feeling occasionally when I wake up, like it's over, and I don't want to think that, especially for you guys that have children who potentially want kids themselves one day, my Lord. But I think there's a lot of really, really awful stuff happening in the world, and it just makes me think, like, what we use art for.
Well, maybe
why do I need to make it?
Right.
Why do
art,
people need to see it?
Art could just be the antidote to that. I think that's powerful too. And I relayed that to my students when we were making the work for these exhibitions in the past, that you can make work, that is specific to the pandemic, to social justice issues. Great. But even if you just make something that gives somebody a little respite, just for a moment, that's really good too. We need that, right? We need to just
for sure
escape sometimes, right? And just have an escape. And art is very powerful for that as well.
Yeah. And I think, everyone in the audience, I think they understand that. When, I can ask myself this question, but I sort of know the answer because I totally agree with both you guys. And yet I feel like it still needs to be, like, I need to ask this to myself on occasion, just to make sure where my head is. And I don't know. I know Michelle had a message. Let's see. What's your favorite art lesson to teach? And I'm thinking about a question I had written down. What's your biggest challenge as a teacher? Maybe you could mix that one in.
I could say something that I don't know if it's the biggest challenge or not, but it's something that I have to make sure that I'm careful about, because through my studies, there's always don't do this, it's going to ruin your career. Do this. This is how you get your, just those kind of career advice from successful artists. And I think a lot of that stuff might be out the window where, you know, I would say, you know, don't make art on a YouTube channel. But now I'm saying, yeah, make art on a YouTube channel. I mean, you
Yeah.
could,
I know,
that
right?
could be your whole career, is being a, you know, maybe no one ever even sees your work outside of process videos that you put on, and that, and you build a career out of that. And I mean, not just YouTube, but whatever, TikTok or any other, what's the next thing and the next thing after that. So I think there's all this, you know, I would say, don't make fan art, right? You know, I don't want people to have fan art in their portfolio, but then I'm not, but
Fan
now
art.
I say, I don't say, don't make it anymore. I just say, don't put in your portfolio for a commercial job because it's not showing a creative thing. But you know, maybe again, you make a whole career out of making fan art online, and that's a whole nother side, or that's one career, and you have multiple careers. And there's just all these possibilities that I think in the past we, you know, maybe looked down on in some ways, and just these other avenues by which artists, designers, creative people can be successful. You know, if that's your vision of success. More and more I have students, when they tell me, you know, I have them write out some goals, and when they tell me their vision of success, they say, I will have a lot of followers, you know, on a social media platform. That's their idea of success, and that can equate into, you know, financial success too. So anyway, I think that's always a challenge for me to stop myself from trying to stop them from doing something that could potentially be very beneficial.
Yeah, well, very interesting. Well put.
Yeah.
Beat that, Laurie.
I know, that's a good one. I think the hardest thing for me to teach is, I mean, I think it applies maybe less to this group because they really made some fantastic work, and they were dealt with really difficult situations in which they had to perform. But I think what bugs me the most is when I see a student who is like overflowing with ability, but they don't push themselves. And I think that as an artist, like, you have to constantly be pushing, and just, you know, it's hard, you know, even after you're out of school, you just have to keep pushing, and finding that desire to just continue to make work, and not just you know, okay, I finished this assignment, it's done, I'm done with it, I'm going to take the next month off or whatever. I think is, you know, the hardest thing is to like really demonstrate to students how you have to really care about what you're doing, and to really stick with it and continue with it, and you know, just to keep going. It's not enough to say, okay, I'm done now. You know, you're not done. It's, you finish that piece of, you know, something, but then you're on to the next. And some students, you know, just have that because that's how they've maybe learned to think about art. But other students, that's something totally new. Like they maybe have never been exposed to that. So I think that's something that, you know, I try to demonstrate in my class. It's not just about one great painting. It's, you know, you have to keep moving forward with what your ideas are and what you're doing.
I think
Indeed.
I found out, you know, through over a long period of time that I don't want to have a strict deadline. I always thought, oh, I have to have a strict deadline because that's how it is in the real world. They have to have it finished. But now I'm like, okay, you have to turn something in, but you can revise it again, because that's actually more real world, especially in like commercial art world, where you would make it and remake it and make it another way and remake it another way, especially with digital media, because that, you know, the ability to do that is there. There was somebody outside of the art department, it was another professor, who said one time that at Hudson, we have a lot of charming slackers. And I thought that was a great sort of whatever phrase for some students that just to your point, Laurie, that I have to try to motivate more, because they're so smart and they're so talented, but they want to just kind of pull back, and they, you know, and I want them to have that more ambition. So they're very charming. They have they can speak about their work very well, but then just getting that final sort of push to really finishes.
And I
goal.
think Jessica in the chat hits the nail on the head. She said, push through the I can't do this. And I think with students, a lot of times that's exactly it, that, you know, maybe you've never done something like that before, or maybe you just haven't been exposed to it. And, you know, I think that's really true. It's like, sometimes it's a self-confidence issue too, that, you know, you're new at something, you're just figuring it out. And you just have to keep pushing. And I think that's exactly it.
And I would add, for the most part, the whole idea for all of these assignments and then, you know, self-driven work is that, of course, you've never done this. You haven't been to college yet, you know, or maybe you've been to college and you're coming back to, you know, work in the arts. So there would be no expectation that like, oh, you know, this whole thing, so just do that. Well, if it's brand new, it's exciting, but of course it's, you know, it's frightening because yeah, you don't know what you can do. I would sort of mirror what Jeremiah was saying. Like, my biggest challenge is not dispensing just bad advice, you know, to like things that, you know, were given to me as like these little presents, like, oh, this is a gift, like, you know, make sure to remember this. And I'm like, really? You know, I want to make sure that I digest it. And then if I say it again, maybe I have to change it or completely throw it away, you know, because it might actually be lousy advice because of the particular person I'm speaking to, or the age that we're all living in now.
I think Dave Hickey, the art writer, and if the students don't know, they should read his books, but you know, he'd always relate art, or he'd make art very relatable by comparing it to rock and roll or to car culture or something like that. And he said, you know, we need to be teaching students, I'm just going to paraphrase here because I don't think Teslas were around, like to be making Teslas, right? Not to be building Datsuns, right? So there's a lot of like art professors, you know, that are teaching their students to make Datsuns, which if you don't know, that's a car company that doesn't exist anymore. But instead to be making the new, you know, the things that are about this time and not about, because that can happen. And I think it's very important as us as educators, just to make sure that we're not resting on the things, all the kind of concepts and ideas of the past. It's a good foundation, but things keep shifting. And as we know, a generation of artists will completely react in an opposite way from the generation before them, right? And then they'll react another opposite way, and we have to kind of keep our conscious, keep that in our consciousness, so that we're not teaching the students how to make Datsuns. Yeah,
Luis Jimenez, who had a huge fiberglass sculpture in front of the art building at my alma mater at the University of Texas, has a whole retrospective show at the Blanton Museum there. And it totally makes me think about Dave Hickey writing about him and Luis, like talking and drinking beer and talking about car culture, you know, and lowriders and the neon, like reflecting off the pools of water and oil in the streets of, you know,
Vegas.
I wanted to say Laredo, El Paso, Texas.
Oh, El Paso.
And, you know, it might seem like a cliche thing to mention, but to, you know, to my students, I say some of the things that I'm actually telling myself, like stay true to like what you actually love to do. Like, if you feel like you can't do something, figure out the way that you would do that thing. You know, there's always like more than one way to sort of complete the assignment, as it were. And you have to make it work for you. Conceptually, that can be tough, but man, when you figure out the thing to do that you do find motivation for, and then it's like, then you keep doing it. You know, it makes it a lot easier.
I think it's important to realize that people weren't born that way. I mean, people like to say, oh, that person is so talented. They're just so talented. It's just like it's natural. No, that person worked thousands and thousands of hours. Yes, they might have been born with some or raised or whatever with some kind of predisposition that allow them to understand that at a little bit higher level than other people, but then they just work their butt off for a long time. So when you say I can't do this, say, yeah, well, everyone couldn't do that at one point, and then they learned how by doing it
Right.
I think that's
over and
true.
over and over again.
Yeah. And that's one thing I always, in my painting classes, sometimes students they want to learn a technique, or they want to learn how to make a certain type of brushstroke. And the artists who use those brushstrokes or use that technique didn't learn in like a step-by-step manual how to do this kind of technique, but it's from painting so much that they come up with these things. And I think usually by the end of a painting class, I mean, just the mark making the students are making their painting, they're so different from each other. And that's what, that's the technique. Like that's your internal, whatever it is coming through in your artwork, not being shown like, this is how you make a cloud, this is how you make a tree, or use this kind of brush stroke. But it's just by doing it and making 500 paintings, then you come up with your style, or what, students always want to have a style, but that's how you come up with your kind of painterly touch.
Yeah, the same
I
thing
think that's
happens
true.
with digital applications, where students will watch a tutorial that shows you how to do this one thing, but then applying that to something else is a whole nother thing, right? And not just following that one little thing, it's probably not going to be useful. But instead, come up with an idea, figure out how to make it, and solve the problems along the way, and you'll learn.
That is very motivational, Professor Teipen. I think maybe this would be a good time to say our goodbyes. That was a good place to leave for the semester. Students, thank you very much for wanting to be here. We can't make you. So I know that you actually wanted to stick around. And again, really, really cool to see your work. And I'm glad that you folks decided that would be a good thing to do. Even virtually, it's pretty terrific. Everybody go see these shows at the gallery. Really, really, really worth it. Laurie, how long is your show going to be up for? I mean, I know it's not much longer.
I think just till the end of the semester. So another 2 weeks.
Okay.
I'm taking it down in January, but I think that the college will close. Yeah.
So definitely check it out if you can. If not, you might have to set up a studio visit. So start picking out your beret, Professor.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jeremiah. Thank you, Laurie.
Thank
you, Michelle. And thank you, Summer. And for all the students, of course. This has been a great thing. I can only hope, I'm crossing my fingers, that Michelle, rubs the magic pot of money, and we can continue to do this in semesters in the future. But thank you guys so much. What is there else to say? This is great. I love doing it.
Thank you, everyone. Michael, and thank you. You always know how to really dig deep. You're I don't know, did you go to the Oprah Winfrey School of Interviewing, art interviewing?
No,
What
I've
happened?
got a good shovel.
All right. Well, and I want to echo what Michael said. It's always a joy to see you be creative. I hope you stay creative. A lot of grumpy people, get grumpy because they aren't being creative. So, stay creative. And beautiful work. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Have a great
good
weekend.
guys.
Thank you.
Bye. Take care.
Thanks,
Bye, everybody.
everybody.